Number 31, Arizona 2024 preview, plus news and notes from across the country on Good Morning College Football. Hello and welcome to episode 81 of Good Morning College Football from campus2canton.com. I'm Nicholas Ian Allen of CFP Winning Edge and Campus to Canton. Thank you for joining us so much this morning on Wednesday, August 14th. That means we are 10 days until the start of the 2024 college football season when it kicks off with week 0, that matchup in Dublin between Georgia Tech and Florida State, plus a few others who will be taking the field that day. So it will be here very soon. And we are, I suppose, coming to sort of a forced conclusion relatively soon on our, extended team preview, something that we tried a little bit different this year, but think that it has been a valuable exercise for me. Certainly hope that you have gotten something out of it as well, whether you are tuning in to, an individual team for a preview. Maybe it'll be a introduction to some of the work that we do at campus2canton.com and CFP Winning Edge. But also if you've been, part of the first 30, and we'll have a few more before the season kicks off. But I think it's hopefully been a valuable exercise to show a little bit of, how I use our sheets from CFP Winning Edge, our team profiles, returning production database, our stat projections a little bit, all of which are available to C2C Winning Edge and all 22 tier members at campus2canton.com. But also, it's been good to spend an extended amount of time, more so than I personally have done in the past, on shows like this or even the CFP Winning Edge podcast, to really kind of dig into the best teams, or at least projected to be the top ranked teams in college football. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. We've got a few more with the season kicking off. I'm actually I haven't put this out there to anyone yet, but I'm considering maybe shifting our schedule a little bit, because we've been in flux a little bit with Good Morning College Football since we started, trying to find the right format, the timing, the number of days, and all of that. But I think there might be some value to, instead of doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday during the season, maybe doing a Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. So be on the lookout. There might be some changes coming up as far as our schedule goes, but we'll of course keep you informed once we make any decision, or if we don't, just expect to continue to see us 3 days a week throughout the course of the season. But if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the Campus to Canton YouTube channel. Please do give this video a like, and also I mentioned the all 22 and C2C Winning Edge tier packages at campus2canton.com, but you can also join the site for as little as $2.99 per month and get access to tons of other great stuff as well. Written content on the site, including a lot of news updates that are popping up over the last week or so, and those are expected to continue moving forward. Also rankings on the site for college fantasy football, Devy, Campus to Canton, of course, tools that get you all kinds of information, data, and things available to help you prepare for your drafts, make decisions as far as cuts and waiver wire pickups, all kinds of great stuff available for our lowest tier packages, starting at $2.99 per month. That gets you access to our Discord, which is up and running and an active area where you can discuss a lot of those decisions that you're making with your teams, as well as just general college football topics. All of that starting at $2.99 per month at campus2canton.com. So thanks to those of you who have subscribed. especially if you're subscribing at that all 22 and C2C Winning Edge tier. Personally speaking, those are my favorite folks, but we love all of our members and subscribers at Campus to Canton. So if you want to just dip your toe in and try it out, you can do so for as little as $2.99 per month. All right, let's turn our focus here. And before we really dig into our full season preview for the Arizona Wildcats, number 31 team in our power ratings, our CFB Winning Edge team strength power ratings this season. Going to discuss a little bit of fall camp news. And as we've said before, there's a lot of information out there. There are a lot of folks who are following these teams as closely as they can. There's varying levels of access for reporters, for team sites, for those who are trying to cover these teams as closely as they can. So college football, it's not standard like in the NFL as far as injury reporting goes. We are starting to see a little bit more formalized process for that during the season, but sometimes we get a piece of information starts out maybe as a rumor. Somebody's able to confirm it. Sometimes things are a bit of a surprise. So with that in mind, we are getting more injury updates this week, including a few impacting some key running back situations across the country. The first of which saw this Tuesday morning. Matt Jones, KY Sports Radio, they're part of the On3 network, reported first early Tuesday that running back Chip Trayanum has broken his hand and will miss 3 to 4 weeks and likely 1 to 2 games. Kentucky is a team that we have already previewed here. Our projections a little bit higher on the Wildcats than many. This move, we did remove Trayanum from the starting lineup in our running back and overall offensive depth chart projections, put Demi Sumo Karengbe as the number 1 running back. There's been some discussion that Jason Patterson, the true freshman, is having a solid fall camp. Saw some mentions of Jamarian Wilcox, the redshirt freshman who missed all of last season due to injury as well. So we'll see how that shakes out as Kentucky moves into the early weeks of the season. But that injury to Trayanum is particularly a difficult one because our CFB Winning Edge stat projections, which I've mentioned before, we try to remove opinion as much as possible from those stat projections. We look primarily at the 3-year weighted history of each team, head coach, and offensive play caller. Try to let those numbers speak as well as they can as far as projected workload and things like that. We do make some minor tweaks here and there if we just know that, this particular player is being underrated due to maybe an injury in the past, going to have a higher level workload this upcoming season, what have you. But our unadjusted projections for Chip Trayanum this season were off the charts. I mean, top 3 running back as far as CFF and DFS scoring goes. Did have to make a manual adjustment. Still do have Trayanum listed as running back 1 for Kentucky. Even if he misses 2 games, likely it seems he's going to end up as the leading rusher for Kentucky this season. By the time we do week 1 projections, we'll actually remove him so he doesn't get included in that batch if you're looking for weekly numbers projections go. But Trayanum was just, the success that this Kentucky running back position, leading ball carrier, has had in recent seasons. Guys like Ray Davis and Chris Rodriguez Jr., also the addition of offensive coordinator Bush Hamden and the work that he did so well with Ashton Jeanty at Boise State last season. He was there in was it Missouri when Cody Schrader emerged sort of late on in 2022, and then Tyler Beatty had such an incredible season in 2021. So, I mean, these running back numbers for Kentucky and for Trayanum as the player expected to be that top ball carrier were just through the roof. And so had to make a little bit of adjustment because Trayanum is not going to get quite as heavy of a workload, especially if he misses 2 games, might be a little bit limited when he returns. That's speculating, of course, but had to bring those numbers down just a little bit manually. But it's a bummer because Trainum looked like a player who perhaps was going to exceed his average draft position in CFF drafts and those underdog best ball drafts, which are rankings updated at campuscanton.com consistently based on news like this. The Wildcats, it's gonna hurt a little bit, and even though it wasn't a major knock to Kentucky's overall win total projections or anything like that, they did slip just a little bit as far as the team strength rating and ranking goes, but still should get by Southern Miss, South Carolina in week 2. We still have Kentucky as more than a touchdown favorite, but then things get difficult. Hosting Georgia week 3. I mean, that South Carolina game is not a slam dunk regardless, but Kentucky a little thinner at the running back position, at least early on this season, according to that report. A couple of other running backs impacted by injury. 7220 Sports, who covers Wyoming, noted that running back Harrison Whaley is going to miss a little bit of time. Head coach Jay Sawvell, according to the tweet from 7220 Sports, doesn't have an exact timetable for Whaley's return, but said it could be early in the season. He will miss some time after getting his knee scoped. Surgery is set for tomorrow. This report was on Tuesday, so surgery today, I believe Wednesday. So Whaley, somebody that ranked relatively highly in a lot of CFF rankings, expected to be a quality running back, carry a fairly heavy workload, even though running back is the deepest position group on this Wyoming roster. Jay Sawvell and Jay Jacobs, the new offensive coordinator there at Wyoming, sounded like maybe there would be Jay Johnson, excuse me. Maybe there would be a little more passing for quarterback Aaron Savota and the Cowboys this season compared to years past, but wanted to take advantage of, like I said, a deep running back situation. Transfer DJ Jones, who had played some defense at North Carolina, seems like he is going to step up and be the top running back on the depth chart while Whaley is out. But Dwayne McNeely, who missed last season due to injury, is back and healthy. Jamari Farrell was a starter at times last season early on. And then a name of note that I've seen a lot of buzz about over the offseason is Sam Scott, who has sort of been cross-training a little bit. I believe played some linebacker earlier in his career, but somebody who at 6'2", 230 in that range has shown that he's got some skills as a receiver coming out of the backfield. Be curious to see what Scott's level of impact is going to be. If Jones is truly going to be that number one running back, if it's going to be a rotation with Scott and McNeely, maybe Farrell in the mix as well. Whaley is certainly the most established, most productive, probably simply best of the group, and would have been expected to take a fairly heavy workload. So this might change things a little bit, at least early on in the season, whether it's going to be 2, 3, 4 games. We'll, of course, try to track that as accurately as we can. But if you're a Wyoming fan, knowing that the running back position is one of the deepest on the roster, this isn't a huge blow to expectations early on, but there are a lot of winnable games early in the non-conference schedule. At Arizona State, there's an opportunity to knock off a Power 4 opponent right away. Home game against Idaho, which went deep in the FCS playoffs, and then BYU, kind of a long-standing. I don't know if it's officially a rivalry between those two, but probably programs that Wyoming would certainly love to knock off the Cougars. Now also a Power 4 program. They played a lot in the past, getting that game at home. All were in the possible win category. No matchup in that first 3 weeks is outside a single possession projection. But this is a little bit of the Whaley injury makes things a little bit tougher for Wyoming, we'll say, as far as that goes. At Minnesota, Andy Greeter of the St. Paul Pioneer Press gave an update Tuesday via tweet that said Gophers star tailback Darius Taylor left Tuesday's practice limping and then icing his left leg. Head coach PJ Fleck said it wasn't a serious issue. Top wideout Daniel Jackson has been limited for more than a week. Did have a little bit of good news, said the experienced safety Darius Green was active in practice. Ryan Burns, who covers Minnesota for Gopher Illustrated, gave a little more detail on Taylor, said he left practice and didn't return. The injury seemingly occurred as Taylor was running a pass route, came up limp on his left leg after spending some time on the ground. He moved off to the side and then had ice on his left hamstring area for 15 to 30 minutes. Burns said it was removed toward the end of practice and he remained with the team. Fleck didn't seem too concerned about it, but he's not exactly a reliable narrator of injuries. Burns also added about Daniel Jackson, said he wasn't dressed for the second straight media practice. This is the last media availability for Minnesota, maybe for the entire season as far as getting to see practice, but certainly for fall camp. He said Jackson was in a bucket hat on the sidelines. He's not in a brace or anything, reading from the piece here. And head coach PJ Fleck believes he'll return soon, although he confirmed he hasn't practiced in over a week. So arguably Minnesota's two best players dealing with some sort of injury early on this season. And Minnesota doesn't get a very easy start to the year. That Thursday night, week one, the Gophers will be hosting North Carolina, a team that our projections are notably higher on than most, but a game in which Minnesota certainly has an opportunity to win first of 4 straight home games, could get off to a very solid start this season in non-conference play with Rhode Island and Nevada, the other two. But that North Carolina matchup, especially if Taylor and Jackson are limited or potentially unavailable, just gets that much tougher for Minnesota. At Texas, Chip Brown of Horns 247 noted over the last couple of days that, in the wake of CJ Baxter's injury, leaving Texas was 4 scholarship running backs: junior Jaden Blue, sophomore Trey Wisner, true freshman Jarrett Gibson, and Christian Clark. According to Brown, coaches were already tinkering with moving a player from another position to running back. As he says here in the piece, in Texas's first fall camp scrimmage on Saturday, redshirt freshman linebacker Darian Goulet, 6'3", 235, took reps at both linebacker and running back. Redshirt freshman receiver Ryan Niblett, 5'10", 185, is also a candidate to get a look at running back, team sources told Horns 247. Clark, as you may have seen, suffered an Achilles injury. I believe we discussed it before it was confirmed what exactly it was, but that is going to sideline him for the rest of the season. So it sounds like those moves seem even more likely now with Blue, Wisner, and Gibson, the only scholarship running backs available. Need to add a little bit of depth to that position. The Longhorns seemingly do. Few more notes across college football at Virginia. Matt Newton of Virginia Cavaliers on SI noted that Notre Dame transfer wide receiver Chris Tyree, who had been wearing a boot and missed a lot of practice time last week, was back as a full participant in Monday's practice. Head coach Tony Elliott indicated that injuries to expected starting left tackle Mikhail Boley, we've mentioned that before, and starting center Brian Stevens, that was new, I believe, should not keep either player off the field for long. So we haven't removed either player from our starting lineup projections yet for Virginia, but sounds like perhaps one or both could potentially miss some playing time early in the season. A quote here from Elliott via Newton says, we're a little bit thin on the offensive line right now with Boley being down. Boley will be a couple more weeks, and Stevens is day to day. So we didn't have some of our top guys, but it was really good for the young guys to get in there because, heck, we learned last year, depth, it's going to be ready. Other players dealing with injury, we mentioned wide receiver J.R. Wilson. Sounds like he's going to miss some playing time at the start of the season due to a knee injury. Junior running back Xavier Brown was our number 2 projected running back for Virginia entering the season. Sounds like he is dealing with a shoulder injury that's going to impact his availability early on. And then senior defensive lineman Bryce Carter, another member of the projected 2 deep, is currently out with a knee injury that Elliott described as the, quote, longest term of those latest injury updates. Jackie Franciulli of Wahoo's 247 has noted in a couple of reports over the last several days that quarterback Anthony Calandria, though not having missed any practice time just yet, has been wearing a knee brace for the last week. But according to Franciulli, that knee brace nowhere in sight on Monday. So good news there that Calandria sound like maybe working through a little bit of trouble there with the knee, but nothing that's impacted his availability for practice and seemingly for the start of the season. So a little bit of good news, bad news with Tyree and Calandria there, but Virginia so far, based on what we've gathered news-wise, seemingly maybe the most impacted team by injury in fall camp so far this year. So a team that's looking to take a step forward, maybe challenge for bowl eligibility. Depth already getting thin there for the Cavs. At Cincinnati, the defensive line took another hit. Chad Brindell of Bearcat Journal tweeted on Tuesday that defensive tackle Jalen Hunt will miss the 2024 season with a knee injury suffered in camp last week. That is the second season-ending knee injury to a Cincinnati defensive lineman, with Micah Coleman already out for the year. And then the All-American candidate, Dante Corleone, is still working through a blood clot issue that seems like it's likely to impact his availability this season. So Cincinnati, another team looking to take a step forward. Our projections do anticipate a step forward in challenging for a bowl game, but that defensive line is being severely impacted by injury so far this year. A couple other notes. Indiana is going to be without starting offensive lineman, projected starting right guard Nick Kidwell due to a season-ending injury. Pete Thamel was first to report that, I believe. Saw confirmation from Zach Osterman of the Indianapolis Star. And at Hawaii, Stephen Tsai of the Honolulu Star-Advertiser noted that Stephen McBride, the all-conference caliber wide receiver, has rejoined the team for team activities, was dealing with a legal issue that we discussed a week or more ago. But according to Tsai, his availability for games remains in question while he seeks to resolve an eligibility issue unrelated to his recent suspension. So Stephen McBride, maybe a little bit of good news as far as back to the practice field, but don't count on him just yet. Don't expect him to be out there just yet. Sounds like maybe, I don't know if it's academics or what, but some other sort of eligibility issue is still lingering for McBride. All right. Turning now to the number 31 team in our team strength power ratings, the Arizona Wildcats. And I mentioned at the very end of Monday's show, if you made it all the way, we were expecting to discuss Florida today, but this 30 to 35 area in our CFP Winning Edge team strength projections, it's very tight, and actually based on some further reports coming out of Gainesville, sounded like Montrell Johnson Jr., the running back, is not getting any closer to back to the practice field. So I actually did remove him from that starting lineup for Florida. Put in Trayon Webb. We talked about that Jacoby Jackson's getting some reps and impressing with the first team as well. So put those in the top two spots there. And Johnson, if he is able to get back for that week 1 date with Miami, maybe less than 100%. Sounds like that is likely to be the case. So Florida dropped from number 31 to number 34 based on that news. And there was a little bit of a shuffle with some other news as well. But we're going to talk about Arizona today. And it looks like right now Virginia Tech on Friday. But the Wildcats coming off an excellent 10-win season. very unexpected for most. I mean, we saw the progression, we saw the improvement over the last few years under Jed Fish, but breaking through for 10 wins was a bit of a surprise to most, to many, myself included. And then, 10-3 after having won, 7 games to finish the season. But two of those those only 3 losses, 2 of those 3 losses came in overtime. The other, a loss to Washington, who played for a national championship by a single possession, 31-24. So we'll discuss the particulars of that here in just a moment. But what are others saying about Arizona? There's not a wide range. There is a range. Some as the earliest, way too early. I believe Mark Schlabach has done that for ESPN for a long time. Arizona was fringe top 10. Most have moved beyond that as far as, analysts, media personalities, the projection systems out there, computer-based models were a little lower, I think, from the beginning, but just last week, PFF came out with its top 25 preseason numbers, had Arizona number 11 nationally. Stuart Mandel of The Athletic post-spring had the Wildcats 13th in his top 25. The Sporting News had Arizona 17th in its preseason numbers. Andy Staples of On3 had Arizona 19th in his post-spring top 25. Schlabach moved the Wildcats down to 20th in his last power rankings. Beta Rank has Arizona 22nd. That's on the highest side as far as the computer-based projection models that I've seen. For EA Sports and Athlon Sports, Arizona is 23rd for both of those. ESPN's Football Power Index has the Wildcats 24th. The K-Ford ratings have Arizona 25th. ESPN and Bill Connolly's most recent SP Plus numbers have Arizona at number 28. And then Phil Steele is sort of in the neighborhood with us. Steele has Arizona 30th in his top 40 rankings and then 35th in his power poll. So we're at number 31. Seemed like throughout most of the offseason, we were a little bit low on Arizona. But based on the coaching change and Brent Brennan, as much as I personally respect the job that he did at San Jose State, building that program from one of the worst in college football into a consistently competitive winning program. Still, as far as our head coach ratings go, his overall team performance rating not super high. So that pulls Arizona down just a little bit. The losses personnel wise, once Fish left for Washington, hurt a little bit, but Brennan and that coaching staff have done a pretty good job rebuilding the Arizona roster, adding back some of the depth that it lost via the transfer portal, and then keeping the quarterback wide receiver duo of Noah Fifita and Tet McMillian. McMillian may be the best wide receiver in college football, certainly on a very short list. Preseason All-American, according to ESPN, I just saw earlier this morning. Most others probably pencil him in there as well. But this Arizona team is a little tricky for our numbers to project because we do use past team performance as not a huge weight in our preseason projections, but it is a little bit of that. And the growth over the last 3 years has been fairly significant, and it was somewhat sudden. Last season, Arizona ranked 16th in our team performance ratings, but if you look at our 3-year weighted team performance numbers, Arizona's been number 51 nationally. If you look out even farther, over 5 years, they're 76. So those numbers, jumping up to 10 wins last season, playing like a top 15 team nationally, you would expect that to carry over a little bit, even with a change at head coach. But the way we do our projections, some of that past history is a little bit of a factor, and that pulls down on Arizona just a little bit. Also, the roster strength numbers, even though they've got a couple of the best players in college football, one of whom has certainly, as we've discussed, had some injury issues and things worth monitoring. But talent-wise, Arizona's still more like a top 50 team than a top 25 or so team. But a few other notes here. We mentioned that David Hale has had a piece for ESPN that we've referenced far more often than not, where he put all 134 FBS quarterback situations into tiers. For Noah Fifita at Arizona, I mean, when he stepped in and became the starting quarterback last season, this Arizona offense really sort of ignited. This team as a whole took a huge step forward, and they went from a team where it seemed really disappointing for Washington and USC that they played Arizona so close, to then looking back at it and thinking, man, Washington and USC were really quite fortunate that Arizona hadn't gotten up to full speed just yet. But as Hale said, over his final 8 games of the season, Fifita threw for 22 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and completed 72% of his throws. This is part of that piece with all the quarterback tiers. He gives a stat or something about each situation. Said Fifita averaged 8.6 yards per attempt during that period. The only power conference quarterbacks with more pass touchdowns in that span were Oregon's Bo Nix and LSU's Jaden Daniels, two of the top. I mean, Daniels, of course, won the Heisman Trophy. Bo Nix, like Daniels, a first-round NFL draft pick and a Heisman finalist, said both finished in the top 3 in the Heisman voting. So Noah Fifita, a huge, maybe the key piece of that second half turnaround, or just a huge step forward for Arizona. And let's take a little bit of a closer look as to how that all shook out. Pulling up our CFP Winning Edge team profiles, you can see number 31 in our team strength power rankings. The team strength rating is there under that, 5th in the Big 12 for Arizona. Mentioned it before in team performance. Arizona ranked 16th nationally. That's a big jump compared to the previous few years. Arizona was 84th in team performance in 2022, 109th in 2021. And we all remember the winless 2020 season. Arizona was 114th in team performance. That embarrassing loss to Arizona State put sort of the exclamation point at the end of the Kevin Sumlin era there. But Arizona's taken a huge step forward, as you know, since ranked 7th in offensive team performance, number 23 as far as passing offensive team performance, number 6 in rushing team performance on the offensive side of the ball. And the defense was pretty solid overall. 38th in team performance defensively, 41st against the pass, 51st against the run. Look, history-wise, I mean, that's a giant step forward. 2022, this Arizona defense was one of the worst in college football, 128th in defensive team performance. The 3 years prior to that, 97th, 100th, and 112th, dating back to 2019, respectively. So Arizona, big step forward defensively last season. If this team's able to maintain that, then this is going to be a dangerous team. Look, numbers, specifically by numbers, some of the key factors in those team performance ratings. There are dozens that we throw into the mix, but these are some of the ones that we pay the closest attention to. But scoring offense against FBS opponents only in the regular season only, Arizona was 20th. With 34 points per game. Yards per play, 11th. Points per drive, 9th. That's according to Brian Fermo, bcftoys.com, and those are filtered for garbage time, also against FBS opponents only. Yards per pass attempt, top 25 nationally at 8.4. Number 6 in success rate, according to collegefootballdata.com, and then CFP Data's EPA per play equivalent, PPA is what they call it. Arizona, number 8 offensively in the country last season. So top 25 across the board, top 10 in most areas there. And then defensively, solid, not spectacular, but solid numbers overall. 34th in scoring defense, 42nd yards per play, 33rd in points per drive, 56th in yards per pass attempt, 69th in success rate, and 45th in EPA per play. So on margin, you can see a lot of top 20 numbers here. 18th in scoring margin, 15th net yards per play, 13th in net points per drive, 28th net yards per pass attempt, 17th in net success rate, and 15th in EPA margin. So this was not a fluke for Arizona last season. Statistically speaking, it played like a top 15 team, a 10-win team. Even though if you look at the post-game win expectancy numbers and those second-order wins, if we were to add up the percentage of wins based on all of these numbers from collegefootballdata.com, where you would get credit for the full win against Northern Arizona, that 38-3 victory, just 52%, although greater than 50% chance of winning that game against Mississippi State. Looking back, that was a real missed opportunity for Arizona. So in those first two games, 1-1, but they would have had 1.52 wins in according to second order wins, statistically speaking. So took care of business against UTEP, 77% against Stanford in the Pac-12 opener last season. Close call against Washington, but Arizona had a 24% chance of winning that. Had a 72% chance of beating USC. That one was a real missed opportunity for Arizona at the time. From the USC perspective, the Trojans were, still up there high in the polls, big, Pac-12 title contenders, maybe favorites, and seemed like they really, really escaped that game with Arizona and survived to, maybe keep that contention up there. But looking back on it now, Arizona, the better team. Statistically speaking, certainly, but then by the end of the season, I think we can certainly say that the Wildcats were better than USC last year. But then Arizona got hot, beat Washington State. Absolute blowout there. Was statistically speaking fortunate to beat Oregon State, but able to find a way to win is just a 23% chance as far as the post-game box score goes. So if you were to replay that game 100 times, 1,000 times, however many, Arizona and Oregon State, if they put up the exact same numbers, you would have expected the Wildcats to win less than a quarter of the time. Nevertheless, final score is what mattered, and they came out ahead. Took care of business again, 100% against UCLA. Colorado, a little bit better than the final score might indicate. Utah, very impressive victory there, 100%. Arizona State, 59 points against your arch rival, certainly key there. And then the numbers against Oklahoma, not great, even though that was a 2-touchdown final score margin, just 7% in the post-game number. So that coupled with the Oregon State win, and you could say, yeah, maybe Arizona a little bit fortunate to get to 10 wins, look more like a 9-win team as far as those second-order wins go. But also got to factor in the Mississippi State coin flip, the USC game in which Arizona outplayed the Trojans. Both of those, little unlucky as far as the post-game numbers go. Coaching goes into that, a little bit of luck goes into that. There are a lot of reasons why those numbers may not match up with the final score. But Arizona, for the most part, things evened out fairly well. Played like a 9-win team, got to the 10 wins and pretty much earned it, I think we could say. So who's coming back from that, 10-win successful run for Arizona? Pulling up our returning production database from CFP Winning Edge here. Arizona 36th nationally when adjusting for incoming transfers, 36th on the offensive side of the ball, 50th defensively. If we were only looking at who's coming back and who's not, so just raw returning production, Arizona would have ranked 45th overall, 40th on the offensive side of the ball, and 61st defensively. So not a ton of change one way or the other, but getting Noah Fifita back is, of course, huge. Jaden DeLora transferred out and then moved on to the CFL or UFL. I'm not sure which exactly, but Fifita, he's the man now, established. 25-6 touchdown to interception ratio, 8.6 yards per pass attempt, 72.4 completion percentage. All of those very, very solid numbers. The average depth of target, is not really attacking downfield super often, 7.8 there, but the other numbers all look quite good, maybe even have a chance to improve, especially if McMillian is back and fully healthy. The running back situation, a little bit different. A lot of turnover here. The leading returning rusher at running back is Rayshawn Luke with 153 yards and 1 touchdown on 37 carries. Jonah Coleman transferred out, followed Fish to Washington. DJ Williams and Michael Wiley, both out of eligibility. So 2 incoming transfers, really 3 incoming transfers. 2 of them have stats, so that's why they show up here and the other doesn't. But Ja'Cory Krusky Merritt had a huge year at New Mexico, began his career at Alabama State, had 17 touchdowns last year for the Lobos, averaged 6.3 yards per carry, 1,185 yards on 189 carries. Quali Conley, who of course has the connection with Brennan at San Jose State, a bit of a dual role for Conley last season, and still over 800 yards, 9 touchdowns, averaged 6.4 yards per attempt. So with that rebuilt running back room, Arizona should be in pretty good shape there. The receiving core, you get McMillian back, and that's huge. 130 targets, 90 catches, 1,402 yards, and 10 touchdowns. But was shut down in the spring due to injury. Early days of fall camp, there was some real concern that things maybe didn't look very good for McMillian. In recent days, mid-August, sounds a lot more positive about McMillian and his availability. But Arizona didn't, give a lot of reps to non-starters. So losing Jacob Cowing in his 451 routes run, tight end Tanner McLaughlin, his nearly 400 routes run. Michael Wiley, running back, even though he was limited by injury, his receiving ability will be missed. But then Montana Lemonius Craig, he does return, a little bit banged up right now, it sounds like, but Coleman is gone. Kevin Green Jr., the wide receiver freshman last season, is gone. So there's, certainly were some holes to fill. Added Raymelo Murphy as a transfer from Old Dominion, tight end Sam Olson transferring from San Jose State. Conley and Merritt, not, the most productive receivers. Conley, good numbers, 27 catches, 269 yards. But Merritt, not much as far as receiving production out of the backfield go. But nevertheless, if McMillian is available and healthy, he is one of the very best players in college football. So certainly something that this Wildcat offense is going to be able to build around. On the offensive line, things took a little bit of an unexpected turn when Raymond Polito was announced that he's going to be unavailable. We don't exactly know why publicly. Maybe there are some rumors behind the scenes I haven't seen, but Polito was expected to be the starter at left tackle. Jordan Morgan, losing him, who was the starter at left tackle last season. Not necessarily the way you would draw it up. Arguably the most important position on the offensive line, losing your top guy to the NFL and then losing your heir apparent there. Not great, but get 3 full-time starters back, add 2 players with starting experience. Joey Capra transferred from Nevada, showed up on the roster, Monday, I think. So very recent addition here. So there's some experience there. There's plenty to work with, but the offensive line a little bit more in flux than maybe you would ultimately hope for. But still, several players on the roster and available, 6 total, started 5 games or more last season, wherever they were. On the defensive side of the ball, top 3 tacklers all return. 5 of the top 6 return, and then additions via the transfer portal, guys who would have rated pretty highly in that category as well. 4 incoming transfers with 34 tackles or more, including a couple of guys who were very productive on the defensive line, Trey Smith and Kevin Darton coming in. Jared Small, a very recent addition as well. He was productive at Tulane after starting his career at LSU. Lance Kennelly at linebacker, you can see there as well. But getting Manu back, getting Johnson and Maldonado, and the key piece, not even Traylon Stukes is quite good, but I was going to say, sorry, Takario Davis, getting him back, entered the transfer portal. Fortunately for Arizona, they were able to hold on to him, but that secondary should be an area of strength, a lot of experience coming back. The linebacker position with Manu and Justin Flo looks like it's in pretty good shape as well. And then pretty aggressive adding players via the transfer portal on the defensive line. So overall, not a real reason to expect Arizona is going to see a significant drop-off defensively after making that big jump last season. So as of this morning, the projected win total for Arizona at DraftKings for their regular season win total was 7.5. We have hit just by the narrowest of margins, the over. 7.51 is our current projection at CFB Winning Edge using our team strength model, our traditional way of officially declaring an over or under on every FBS team. We've done that dating back to 2021. We've had a 60.4% success rate. We were 55.6% last season. So this, for Arizona, if we get it, it's going to be because we were a little bit lucky and just happened to be at 7.51 and not 7.49. Nevertheless, I think that I'm, happier that we are on the over today than I would be if we were on the under. I think actually the number when we did our official projection for the CFB Winning Edge podcast, Arizona was at 8. So I think it's I guess ticked down half up. I mean, obviously, right? So we are officially for our record-keeping purposes on the under 8 for Arizona, but with the updated number, we would be technically on the over here. And that, to me, is a little bit better. I'd rather be over 7.5 because, especially with things trending in the right direction for McMillian, you can see here we do still have him labeled as injured. That is something to keep an eye on. He's still penciled in as a starter, but hasn't, sounds like, taken much, if any, as far as scrimmage reps, a lot of team period reps. Montana Lamonius Craig has been dealing with a little bit of an injury recently. We have Malachi Riley projected there as a wide receiver. That was more based on a lot of incoming reports into spring camp. Jeremiah Patterson, you can make an argument, maybe should be included with that group, the junior college transfer. He's getting a lot of camp buzz. Keon Burnett at tight end, getting a lot of positive reports early on in fall camp. He and Roberto Miranda are both back for Arizona, but Sam Olson, the transfer coming in from San Jose State, probably going to play a fairly significant role this season as well. So Arizona offensively, 39th in roster strength. It is the stronger side of the ball on paper, but still a couple of questions, especially as it relates to the health of that wide receiver room. Nevertheless, should be able to run the ball pretty well with Quali Conley and Ja'Cory Croxy Merritt. I saw Michael Lev of Tucson.com earlier this week was very positive in his reporting about Merritt, saying it wouldn't shock him if he got the first carry of the season, but it sounds like it's going to be a real 1-2 combo there for Arizona unless one emerges quickly. And then Kedrick Riscano, I believe Jason Shear of Wildcat Authority was among those who said he had one of the best practices of the season or of the fall camp. This maybe it was Tuesday evening there for Arizona. So there's depth at that running back position. Riscano coming in from Ole Miss. He was a highly rated player, played only on special teams for the Rebels, but sounds like he has the ability to contribute, and then Luke being back as well. So that running back position certainly looks like a strength. If you just look at the raw recruiting numbers, that's the most talented position group for Arizona. 29th as far as their average 247 sports composite rating. It's also slightly over the tight end position, the best as far as position strength goes. And if you've just joined us for the first time, the way we do these player ratings. We do have individual player ratings for every team, every player in college football. We start with those recruiting rating numbers coming out of high school, but adjust based on experience and on-field production to give us an overall, what we call video game rating. It's very similar in concept to the EA Sports College Football 25 ratings. Not exactly the same because we, as you could see with McMillian, he surpassed that 99 benchmark or a ceiling that EA Sports has. We made that change a couple of years ago, but for the most part, very similar in idea at least. And adjusting for experience and production, that running back group is top 30 nationally. The wide receiver group, even though it has one of the best in college football, just a top 50 as far as position strength goes. The offensive line doesn't grade out particularly well in position strength. See a drop from 50th in that average 247 composite rating to 73rd when you adjust for experience and production. So on paper, that looks like maybe a slight area for not concern, but if you're looking maybe to punch holes in or find a weak spot in an offensive position group, that offensive line is perhaps it. Defensively, solid, not spectacular. The linebacker group, top 35 as far as raw talent goes, but top 50 when adjusting for experience and production. The defensive line takes a little bit of a step forward from low 70s to right around 60. And then the defensive back room, that secondary, I think maybe a little bit underrated in our position strength ratings. We've got the Wildcats at 43rd, but a lot of experience there with Davis, Stukes, Maldonado, and Johnson all back. I think that group is got the potential to be a top 25 type group of defensive backs. But how does it all work out on the field? The schedule is manageable. Arizona 58th in our strength of schedule rankings is our CFP Winning Edge average. Opponent team strength looks good on paper. Getting Kansas State early on in a non-conference game is perhaps going to be a major key for Arizona making a run at that Big 12 title. Could be a little bit of a disappointment if Arizona is able to go into Manhattan and beat K-State because that won't factor in to their Big 12 schedule. But not playing K-State in conference play is important. They do have to travel to Utah. Maybe getting Utah early in the season is a benefit, as that team is getting a little healthier. Cam Rising, Brent Keefe, those guys getting back into the swing of a full season of college football, having that week to prepare. Arizona, of course, is familiar with Utah dating back to their days in the Pac-12. So that could potentially work in the Wildcats' favor a little bit. But you would, if you're Arizona, certainly rather have that game in Tucson than have to travel to one of the tougher environments in the Big 12. Nevertheless, from there, things look a little bit better. That trip to UCF is going to be tough. That trip to BYU, even though we have Arizona favored there, that is another tough environment. So as far as home and away matchups go, Arizona maybe has a little bit tougher schedule than the numbers overall might indicate, but we do have the Wildcats favored in looks like 6 games. They're going through the middle of the season there with West Virginia, and then a 7th and 8th game in the month of November, Houston and Arizona State. But all the others are definitely within reach. Every game in which Arizona is a projected underdog, it's by less than a touchdown. So every game on the schedule is winnable. Will Arizona take care of business and win the games we have them projected as favorites? That could be tough. It's difficult for every team to win every game it's quote unquote supposed to win. But if things just went according to our projected favorites, we would have Arizona going 8-4. I think 10 wins is definitely possible. Once again, they're going to have to navigate some very tough road situations. That road trip to TCU at the end of the season is not going to be easy either, but every game on the schedule is winnable and the schedule itself pretty manageable. So this Arizona team, especially if McMillian is healthy, especially if that defense continues to play at a top 50 level and doesn't take a step back to what we saw prior to last year. I think the Arizona team is going to be in the mix. I think that the Big 12 title is going to have to go through this Arizona team. Personally, maybe there are a couple of teams that make more sense, have an easier path to that Big 12 championship game. A lot of buzz about K-State, even though they're lower in our rankings. We talked about Kansas recently. We've mentioned that UCF is our highest rated team, for better or worse. Utah absolutely going to be in the mix. So there's easier paths and probably teams that are more likely to make it there. But this Arizona team in this wide open Big 12 absolutely have the potential to do it. So that will wrap it up for us today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back on Friday with the number 32 team in our team strength power ratings, Virginia Tech as it stands, unless there's some news that we have to adjust to like we did today. We'll be talking about the Hokies on Friday, as well as other news and reports coming out of fall camps from across college football. As I said, keep an eye out. We might be doing a little bit of a changing around some of the dates for our show once the season kicks off. We'll try to see how that all works out. But if you have an opinion, if you think that I really would prefer Tuesday, Thursday, reach out to me. Certainly would love to hear your thoughts as a viewer. On that note, please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Campus to Canton YouTube channel. Give this video a like, and we certainly would love if you would consider a subscription to campustocanton.com. You can join for as little as $2.99 per month. Get access to a wide range of written content, tools, data on the site, Discord access, tons of great stuff. But also, if you want all 134 team pages of these team profiles, a returning production database, or stat projections, all that is available at the C2C Winning Edge and all 22 tier levels. So have a wonderful rest of your week. We will be back on Friday for Good Morning College Football. Until then, take care.